You're listening to Offer Accepted, the show that is all about fostering careers in real estate and growing your real estate team. Your host is Vanessa Rosenblum. Vanessa is the president of a search firm called Pro REA Staffing, where they help real estate agents hire talented people so that they can grow their businesses. On this show, Vanessa interviews real estate industry professionals from real estate assistants to team leaders of mega teams to learn how they achieved their current level of success and what they're doing to rise to the next level in their career or business. Whether you are exploring a career in real estate or you currently run a large real estate team and you want to be better at recruiting, training, and managing your employees and agents, this is a show you'll want to follow, so don't forget to hit subscribe. All right, let's go to the show. Here's your host, Vanessa.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Rosenblum. My guest today is Scott Shuman. Scott is the COO for the Sue Adler Team in Short Hills, New Jersey. He spearheads all recruiting, growth, marketing, training, and in a nutshell, runs the day-to-day operations of a massive real estate team. And Scott and I have worked together over the years on a few different placements, but I never really got to understand his story. And once I did, I knew I had to have him on the podcast. I think you're going to love Scott's story. I think it's truly inspiring. And I think he's such a great example of what happens when talent is recognized and it's given the opportunity to grow and be challenged and continue to expand. So listen to this. Scott has been with the Sue Adler team for 9 years, and he's 27 years old, and he's the COO of the team. So it's pretty impressive. And what I want to dig into with him today is how he got started, how he got where he is today, and how Sue was able to hold on to somebody who could clearly find another job if he wanted one. So hopefully you'll take away some nuggets that you can apply to your own career or your own team. So hi, Scott. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So let's just start at the beginning. How did you and Sue meet? How did you get started in real estate?
So Sue and I met, I guess it was like 2003 or 2004. My family actually relocated from Massachusetts to New Jersey, and Sue was unbelievably the first person in the area with the website. My dad thought that was the coolest thing ever because Massachusetts, we knew nothing about New Jersey. And so I met Sue in the back of her car looking at houses with my family and touring around towns. And it wasn't until a few years later, I was probably 15 or 16 years old. And everyone asks why I thought it would be cool or why I wanted to get into these things. I still to this day have no idea what made me want to do it. But I thought that real estate was cool, and I thought it was a cool industry. And I certainly understood that you could monetize it and it could be a very lucrative industry. And my dad, kind of not knowing really what Sue was doing, but knowing that she was a big realtor, said, "Oh, you should call Sue Adler. Like she'll help you out." So I sent Sue an email with like 10 questions, and I don't think sending an email to my phone ring has ever happened faster. I think my phone rang within 30 seconds, and it was Sue. And we spent like an hour on the phone just talking about the industry and talking about what the opportunities were and what the potential was. And what's really cool is Sue has a brother who does commercial real estate in California. And so Sue was awesome. She's like, "Listen, any way you want to go with this, like you got to call me. I can connect you with my brother. If you want to go commercial, if you want to do residential, we'll let's see what we can do." And I'm not sure that she ever knew I would take her up on it, but it wasn't until a few years later when I was a senior in high school that I had the opportunity to do a senior internship. And I called her and said, "I'm back. Would you like free labor?" And she said, "Of course." And kind of the rest is history from there.
So when you graduated from college, I know you worked for her in the summers and part-time while you were in college. When you graduated and you came back, what did you want to do? I mean, you now you understood how the team worked and what some of the opportunities were. What was your vision for your career at that point?
Yeah, so I was really fortunate in college to meet some mentors in the real estate industry, coaching-wise, who challenged me to go out and learn every aspect of the real estate business. I remember vividly having a conversation with one of them, and he said, "Scott, you're going to be young and successful, and that means that everyone's going to challenge you." And he said, "And you need to have the credibility and the track record of success in each of the roles, because then your age becomes a null and void point because you've done it and you've succeeded at a high level. And so during those summers, I spent a lot of time doing different things. I mean, from transaction coordination to lead coordinator to ISA to database management to executive assistant, whatever was necessary. I wanted to put my hands in it and I wanted to learn it. I wanted to be a part of it. So when I graduated or my junior into senior year of college, Sue had always said all along, when you graduate from college, I'm going to hire you. When you graduate from college, I'm going to hire you. And so I kind of said, all right, now's the time. Next summer I'm going to be graduated and let's do this. And she challenged me to go back and put together a proposal for her. So I spent the summer kind of working my way around the country, talking to different folks and learning like what were the opportunities, how were people's companies structured. I mean, obviously I knew that teams had a rainmaker and that had agents underneath them and executive assistants and transaction coordination. But outside of that, I didn't really understand that people had general managers or people had directors of operations. And so I kind of made my own role in a weird way, called director of operations. There is everyone always asks this too, do you have a job description of what you do? I wrote one. I don't know that we ever actually used it, but I do have one somewhere. And it took a life of its own. I mean, I knew when I came out that I had an amazing opportunity to grow what I wanted. I loved the ability, at heart, I love sales and that I'm super passionate about. So I loved the opportunity to be in the back end, growing the business, being a part of the nuts and bolts of the business, but also having the ability in my free time to run transactions. And I saw that as an ability to exponentially increase my income because my financial thermostat is very high.
So when you joined after college and you became the director of operations, how many people were on the team? How was it structured at that point?
So we had, I believe we had 5 buyer's agents. There was a transaction coordinator, and we had an executive assistant, and we had an ISA who had been with us for probably 4 or 5 years. So that was pretty much the whole team. And then Sue's husband Peter was our photographer, and he was also still like a part-time buyer's agent, runner, a lot of other things. And so that was the structure of the team. And there was it was kind of like I think a lot of teams that I see in that like hot, close to 100 million range, where you have a really powerful rainmaker who is a really successful real estate agent and who has hired people out of necessity to do more business. And yet they kind of get to a point where they're in the messy middle and they need some organization, but everyone's overworked. So there's nobody else really to do it, including the rainmaker. And so I kind of stepped in at a cool point, at that time. And we were able to really start to put together systems and models about like, how do we actually run this business? And we started with the sales side because for me, it was important, like the admin side, we could kind of figure our way through, but for me, it was important. Let's do more business right off the bat. And so, we started having standards and accountability meetings and accountability calls. And it wasn't just show up and if you sell 4 houses, that's great. And if you're bad for the culture, who cares? Don't come in. We started to really enforce and care about the culture and focus on growing a business that wasn't just going to get us to 100 million, but would get us to $1 billion, or wherever it was that we wanted to take it.
When you started to implement that accountability and that structure, what was the response from the team? I can just imagine you fresh out of college, really eager, lots of ideas, guns a blazing. What was that like?
Yeah, so I was a little lucky because I had some credibility because quite honestly, even at that point, I had the most years tenured wise with the team. So that did help a little bit, but sure, here I am, 23 years old, I guess, and I'm working to convince people who are twice my age that I have the best ideas and they should follow what I'm doing. There was some resistance, and yet I'm really lucky that there was a woman, Lori Silver-Corsello, who's still on the team today, who bought into it. I mean, she came in and we like became friends, and we just worked together. And she would challenge me, and she's helped me grow both personally and professionally. And I would challenge her, and I think if you asked her, she would say I've helped grow her personally and professionally. And that was awesome, because then we had our kind of like our test case, right? And she was the most successful. So it was like, everyone's kind of looking around saying like, oh, she's actually prospecting 4 or 5 hours a day. And I was really lucky, because she was making me look really good, because she's really talented. So it worked out really nicely. But and she's very self-motivated. So it wasn't even, I certainly can't take all the credit. And yet it was cool that she was doing the things, she was practicing what I was preaching, whether it be because I wanted it to, or she just knew that was how to do it. And everyone else kind of got to see. And listen, quite honestly, we lost people along the way. There were people who went from a very unaccountable environment to a very high accountable environment, and those are two different people. And you have to imagine that you went from a business that had no hiring process to a business that had a strict hiring process, because Sue sent me to career visioning at the time, and we went through the process and said, this is awesome, like we should do this. And I make fun of Sue sometimes. I call her a hugger, in that like she meets somebody and 30 minutes later she's giving a hug, and it's like, now we're down the river. We have to hire this person. So we just re-engineered the process, so that way we understood who we were bringing into the business, and what not only what culture, but also what skill sets and what mindset were they bringing in, because those were really the three things that were important to us. The rest I could kind of train on, or we could bring them up to speed. And so we top graded, as Keller Williams talks about, and as I know you and I have talked about several times. And I think when you top grade, the people naturally find their way out of the business, and I think that was kind of cool. And we had to have some tough conversations with some people that weren't the right cultural fit, who thought hey, I'm a successful agent, but but you weren't the right culture fit, and that just wasn't acceptable at the time, and it was stunting our growth and creating a cancerous environment within the team, and that's just unacceptable.
Right. Let's dig in and talk about culture a little bit, because that is so important. It sounds like Sue probably had a culture, but it wasn't very well defined. You didn't hire to the culture at that point. How did you guys evolve around culture, and how would you describe your culture today?
So I would definitely say that we evolved it just from pain. We realized that some people weren't the right fit, and what we found is that as we grew, it became magnified, and you could see these sort of pockets of people that were not in line with the culture, and that would distract from the overall mission. And also we slowly realized that we became hostages in our own businesses, because you get these group of people, and we felt like we were always working to satisfy them, in fear that they would up and leave one day. And I was like, wait, that's not the way this should be. I'm providing value to you, and you're providing value back to me. It's a two-way street in this business. And so we said, all right, we need to really change what that looks like. So I mean, it took some weeding out. Some people self-discovered. That was awesome. That's always easy when people save you the hard conversations, right? And some people we had to help them discover by having a tough conversation, and asking them to progress their business in other places. And some of them were producers. We had a conversation with somebody who was a $12 or $13 million producer, and she just wasn't the right cultural fit for us. And we made the decision that wasn't the way we wanted to grow this business. We weren't willing to sacrifice culture in the effort to have production on the team. And so we had to have a tough conversation there, and it's worked out really well for us moving forward. So the culture now, people, we look for dedication, right? So you have to be dedicated to the business. I tell everyone that real estate's a lifestyle. It's not really a career. Real estate runs 24/7, 365, and the beauty of it is that yes, you can create your own schedule, and yet we're full-time real estate professionals, and that requires a certain level of dedication. And if you don't have it, again, there's no judgment. It's just we're not the right fit on the team. We're looking for people that are kind and caring and want to be helpful. For me, you want to join a team because if you have a problem, you want to be able to look to the person next to you and say, hey, I'm dealing with this. What do you think? And then last, I think you just have to have that passion. You have to have that fire in your belly, and you have to want to always raise the bar for, higher. We're not looking for folks that are okay with status quo. We want people that are always growing and want to plus our goals. The people that excite me the most are when you come in and they're like, well, what does a typical first agent do on your first year agent do on your team? You say, well, our standard is 15 homes, and they say, well, that sounds easy. Can we do 30? Those are the types of people where I'm like, yes, you get it, because I know that they're always going to be pushing the bar, and I want to be pushed as well. Like that, there's no sense in me saying I'm the smartest guy in the room. I hate being the smartest guy in the room. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room, but I want everybody else pushing us forward. So, it took us years to slowly but surely sort of dismantle what we had and reset up what we were looking to do, because we weren't in a position where we wanted to just start from scratch. So it was a slow architecture kind of redo, but it ended up being very successful for us, I think, in the end. And now we have a platform that we can grow on. That's amazing.
And talk about how you screen for culture fit during your hiring process.
Yeah, so I think it's really into just questions and being able to listen. I mean, I think that people show their true colors so quickly. One of my favorite questions in an interview is, tell me the last time you went above and beyond for a client or a customer in your current business, and listen to the examples they have. Like, some people sit there and they say, oh, well, I had this guy, and normally I leave my desk at 5, and he wanted to talk at 5:15, so I waited 20 extra minutes to get on a phone call with him, and that's awesome, and yet that's not really going above and beyond. That's sort of like an everyday for me. And then you have these people who have these amazing elaborate stories. Our listing success manager, Melissa, who you thankfully found for us, I remember asking her that question, and she said she thought about it for a second. She said, she said a year ago she was a commercial property manager, and she wasn't really the property manager. She was sort of an assistant for a property manager, but whatever. And it was for a company based overseas, and her manager was overseas at the time at a meeting, and she got a call at 3 a.m. That her building, one of those they managed, was flooding. There was a pipe that burst or something like that, and she was pregnant. I think she was 2 or 3 months pregnant, and she woke her husband up and made her husband drive her into the city so she could be at the building and manage the process. Now, that wasn't her job. She could have easily said, I'm sorry, the manager's overseas, take care of it, I'll see you Monday morning. I think it was a Friday night or something like that. But no, she knew what she needed to do, and she just got into action and got it to happen. And when you meet people like that, you say, wow, like, that's okay. You're special. There's a talent there, and it's a mindset thing. That wasn't something that was trained, or that her manager or boss or owner said, okay, this is what you do. No, that was just an instinctual, at the core, like, lizard brain reaction that, hey, we're doing this. Like, there's a problem. The person who is normally here who would deal with it isn't here, so I'm doing it, right? And people like that just blow me away. So I think just asking really good questions that aren't complicated. There's nothing complicated about that. And then just listening to their responses and seeing how they react to it. I think you learn a lot about people.
Do you involve other people on the team in the hiring process? So, for example, do you do a team lunch or have them audit for half a day, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So a lesson that we learned a while back was that we were hiring these people. We got really excited about them. Sue and I did, or maybe if they're working on a different team, that maybe one of the buyer's agents would have met them. And then we would introduce them at a team meeting and say, oh, welcome. This is, John Smith, and he's going to be a new agent. It's going to be amazing. And he's, whatever. And you see everyone in the room kind of be like, well, wait, who are you? What are you doing here? And how does that affect me? And do I really like you? And it just was really awkward. And it wasn't until we went to career visioning, I think, for like the 7th time that we learned that one part that they talk about the other previous times, which was have your team meet them in an informal setting and let people provide you feedback. And so that is a non-negotiable part of the interview process. I don't care how big of a time pinch we're on or they're on. And we get lots of people now that the job market has gotten tight where they say, I have 2 other offers, or somebody else wants an answer. And that's great. And yet this part for our culture has been so important. And it's something simple as like, hey, come in after our team meeting, which ends at noon, and there'll be a bunch of people out at the kitchen table eating lunch, and just sit there and you can ask them any questions about us or me or Sue or anybody or about the business, and they're going to ask you some questions, and it can be professional, it can be personal, it can be whatever you want. And we found that not only does the candidate feel more ingrained in the business and want to be a part of the team more. I've never had anyone leave and say, I don't know. Everyone comes and like, I have to do this. Like, what do I need to do now to make this happen? But also the team feels like they get a voice in it. And again, I tell everyone, I've never had a time where the team hasn't liked the candidate or the candidate hasn't liked the team. I've just never had it. However, I think it's great when people get that opportunity to talk. And then when they come, everyone's excited because it's not, who's this person? It's, oh, I met you. You're awesome. You know, you live in Chatham and have 2 kids the same age as my 2 kids, and this is gonna be so much fun, and I'm excited to work with you. And then I get people on the team are like, when's John starting? Did you hire him yet? Did you guys make that work yet? Or like, how's that? And that to me is like, you know, how the culture grows, and how you keep that culture, because then everyone's excited about it.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Absolutely. As you were growing in your role and Sue was letting go of more and more of the responsibilities that she had held on to, how did that go for her? I know a lot of business owners get to a point where there are things that are part of their core identity and it's really hard for them to let go. Did you guys go through that dynamic?
Yeah, and I think we still do to some extent, being honest and candid about it. I think that tough. I mean, I get it. If you're the all, you know, the buck ultimately ends up with you, right? And you know, again, I was fortunate in that I had a little bit of a head start of trust built up, and I think that's the biggest thing I see in business owners when they work to transition their business into a director of operations or a COO or a general manager or whatever that title may be. They feel like, well, okay, I know how critical this is to the business, and if I let this go and it falls flat, I'm not only letting myself down, but I'm also letting down all the people who count on me. Because think about it, we're 25, 26 people now, and if we mess up lead gen, that might mean that somebody's family doesn't eat, you know, or somebody can't make their mortgage payment, and we don't want that responsibility on our shoulders, you know. So, you know, we definitely have big commitments, but yeah, I think that you have to build that trust, and a lot of it was me sort of running, you know, taking it and running with it, and Sue sort of, I guess not realizing, but sort of it just being a very natural progression of the way it works. So one of the things that one of the first things I took over was like lead conversion and working with the database of buyers, and it was really simple. We were switching from Tiger leads at the time, and it was a manual process because they didn't have an automatic thing, which was really tedious. This was one of my summer jobs in college, and while we were transferring leads over, I realized that there were all these leads that had never been followed up on. It just I don't know what ever happened with them, but they just have never been followed up on. And so I think I looked up some scripts and I just started calling these people, and I started setting appointments from them, or I started saying, oh, they're hot, like this phone number works and the email works and they're looking at our listings, and why aren't we calling them? And so I would just dole them out to the buyer's agents. And Sue figured it out like maybe a week later, and she came to me. She's like, "What are you doing? Like, how did you figure this all out?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's like they're all here. It looks like it's just a waste of money now. They're just sort of sitting here, you know, collecting dust. So I figured, what's the worst thing that can happen?" She's like, "All right, cool. Keep doing that. Keep doing that." And that's how I got buyer leads. That's how I got that job. Honestly, was she never said, "I want you to call buyer leads." It was I just saw the need, and I saw how I could provide value, and I took a risk. And it paid off, and we sold more houses because of it. Everyone was happy. So I think that comes to part of it too. Is I find that a lot of people who get hired into my role, or similar roles, sort of wait to be order takers. And I think that if you can become an order maker and you can say, okay, here's a point in the business that we're not executing at a very high level, and that's creating either a loss of income or an inefficiency or a really high expense, and you can offset that and you can change that and you can make the business more money, make it more efficient, or reduce its expenses. There's no way whoever your owner, boss, manager could ever complain about that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. If you make it more efficient, make it more money, or cost it less money, everyone's going to be happy. So if you find opportunities like that, take them. And then when you execute on those at a high level, you gain trust really quickly, because if you make the company more money, they're like, this guy's awesome. Like you just made me more money and it didn't cost me anything. That's awesome. So that's just some advice there.
Yeah, stop asking for permission, take action.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times agents tell me that they just want someone to tell them what to do.
Yep.
Right? They just I want to come in, be handed a call list. I want to be told where to go, handed a presentation packet. So the more you can just take charge and manage up, the faster you'll grow in your role.
100%. If your rainmaker or CEO is keeping you organized and keeping you on task, then what are they paying you for? They're paying you for that, because let's be honest, our rainmakers and CEOs are typically your high DEIs, right? They're not organized. They're not, and I'm making broad general statements, but they're typically not organized. They're typically not your person that is sitting down and saying, okay, here's my to-do list for today, and I'm going to start going through it. They're kind of on the fly. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. They're just doing what they need to do, and when they feel like they hire people to keep them organized on the back end, because the really smart ones understand they need that organization. It's just not who they are at the core. So let them be successful at the sales part, which is DI, and hire out people who can keep them organized on the back end, so that way when their client calls and says, hey, what was the feedback for the last 6 months? They just go, boom, there it is, right? Or, hey, we need to put together this marketing campaign. Good, done. Instead of, so that's 100%.
And what are some of the things that Sue did to give you authority on the team as you grew in your role and you were able to hire and fire and correct behavior? Were there times when people tried to circumvent you and go to Sue, and how did she kind of give you the authority you needed to be successful in your role?
Yeah, and this is a tough thing, I think. So it was I think that yes, there were definitely people at times who tried to say, well, I'll just call Sue. And what Sue did a really good job of, I would say 95% of the time, is she'd say, call Scott. She just sort of put the ball back in my court. And of course, sometimes everyone's human. You just get caught up in the moment. You deal with it, but I think as I grew and as I matured, I just sort of understood that people are humans, and sometimes the heat of the moment, you've got to deal with it and move on. And I think also I became the hirer for everything. So when you're the first person they talk to and the person that gives you the offer, even though Sue's a part of the process, I become the point person, right? So that really helps as we progress forward. And that didn't happen year one, but call it year two. That really changed the culture of the team, because I was the person meeting you. I was the person running you through the process. I was the person, building that relationship with you from day one. And then Sue came in and, of course, blessed it and made it all great. But you had that relationship with me off the bat, as opposed to Sue hiring you and then, hi, this is Scott. And that really helped. That really helped a lot, getting the authority from the jump. I think that was crucial.
Yeah, it's something that I see happen too often, where an agent says, okay, you're my director of operations, you're in charge, I want people to go to you. And then they step in, they sort of integrate themselves into the process they can't quite let go, and they undercut the authority of the person in your role, and then they wonder why they're having to deal with things they shouldn't have to deal with, and it's a cycle that can spin out of control.
Right, and what I would challenge my friends out there who are in those roles to do is to make your rainmaker aware of the opportunities like that. I think that too often people in the role feel suppressed, and so they say, well, they jump back in and then they hold this weird grudge regret thing, and they're like, oh, they just jumped in and they're being a jerk, and I don't want to talk to them about that, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. No, that's not the right approach. If you have a healthy relationship with your rainmaker, CEO, boss, whatever you call them, then you should be able to go to them and say, hey, you're empowering me, so that way I can free you up to focus on what you want to do. And yet when you step in situations like X, Y, and Z, that detracts from my ability to do what I need to do, so that way I can free you up. So let's come up with a better plan for that, right? Or let's come up with a better situation, or help me understand what I need to do, so that way I can take control of that, so you don't need to step in. And I think that, sometimes they're not open to it the first time. And yet if you continue to sort of create those opportunities and point out those opportunities, I think that good things will come.
So let's talk about what a day in the life of your role is today. What's a typical day?
Yeah, so I do a lot of my day right now is pretty much recruiting, training, retention, and then seeking out expansion opportunities. I would say those are my four big rocks that I focus on. So I'm on either a call, an initial appointment, a KPA validation, pretty much 6 hours a day. The past 3 weeks have been we're in a big talent crunch. We're at 26 now. We're looking to get to 35 by the end of the year. Most of those are going to be agents. There's a few admin roles in there, but we're recruiting for a lot of agents right now. And then my favorite role is the expansion piece, right? So meeting with really talented agents and rainmakers who would become part of our business in different territories around New Jersey, and that's been really exciting. And I love their super high level meetings and talking about their businesses and what can we do to help them grow and what can they do to help us grow and how can this be a win-win. And those have been really, really exciting conversations. And then I still do all the sales training and working with the sales team in terms of hitting commitments and tracking metrics, which is fun for me. I love that part of it. I'm really passionate about sales. I'm really passionate about the industry. So I love being a part of that. And then I wrap that all up into retention. I think that for us, it's all about providing value. It's about providing quality leads. It's about providing quality opportunities for the team and then showing them how we can grow. So what I've really loved is that as we progress new agents from, hey, here's how you sell a house to here's how you sell 15 homes, my favorite part is, hey, here's how we sell 30 homes together.
And is Sue still actively taking listings? I mean, what is her role now at this point?
Yeah. No, Sue's a rock star. She'll still take like 100 listings this year. So yeah, she's really active in the listing role and she loves it. She's happy there and she loves the win and it's exciting for her. So that's great. And she's really, really good at it. So the business itself loves her there, which is great. Lori on the team that I mentioned at the beginning. So she started as a buyer's agent, became lead buyer's agent, then became a listing specialist. She'll take 75 to 100 listings this year as well. So we have two really good people in the listing role. We have a couple buyer's agents who are also now making that transition into doing both. So they're really rocking it. And yeah, so Sue operates sort of as lead listing agent, a visionary type person who can bring in some big ideas and bring in some big concepts and go to a lot of conferences and bring back data. She's certainly not a conference junkie by any means, but she can bring back a lot of great ideas and then we can implement them as a team. And she also is very, one of her passions also is marketing. And so she's still really involved in marketing and she just loves that. She loves the consumer psychology part of that and, what looks best and what's going to convey our brand best and what's going to push us forward best. And then super high level stuff, working with me on the expansion pieces and having conversations about what that looks like and what's possible. And that's most of her role. And then, yeah, she's still in the office and the team still knows her and goes to her for, or she actually likes being kind of a part of some of the conversations and role play phone calls and getting on calls with clients who need that little extra push from Sue Adler. And it's been really successful for us.
So it sounds like she's been leveraged to the point where she gets to do what she really wants to do and what she's really good at and where she adds the most value, and doesn't sound like she does much of anything that doesn't fall into one of those three buckets.
At this point, she should be. Yeah. I mean,
that's fantastic.
She's grown an amazing business and she is amazing at listing homes and running a business and being a leader and a visionary. And I mean, she's earned it. She's gotten to a place in life where she can say, this is stuff I want to do, and this is stuff I don't want to do. And even when maybe her peers or the industry is pushing her in one direction, she can say, like, that's not my passion. That's not really what I want to do. I want to do these things, and she's totally earned it. So the business is built around her and what she wants to do.
And it sounds like you don't have to get down into the weeds on the admin side very much anymore. When were you able to step away from dealing with nuts and bolts on the admin side?
Yeah, I definitely do still deal with some low level stuff that personally I'm struggling just giving it up. and I could probably do it through a virtual assistant or something like that. And I think that's sort of one of my professional goals that I'm working on is to rid myself of that, because I understand how much it holds me back in moving the business forward. And we just hired really great people. Melissa doesn't need me to sit there and tell her how to put listings in the MLS or how to file paperwork or how to get things up to the office. And sure, I want to get involved on process conversations and, okay, we're going to implement a new system, or we hired somebody new because now we have two people in that role. And what does that look like? Because that's different to have two people servicing clients at the same time, or having two transaction coordinators. Those are the conversations I want to be involved in. Those are the pieces I want to be in part of growing. I don't want to be a part of the nuts and bolts of, did you check off the fire inspection today, or did you do this, or did you do that? We've built systems around it, and quite honestly, we've hired just really talented people who are able to pick it up and run with it. And I think that if your business doesn't have people like that, then you're going to be forever stuck in the nuts and bolts of it, because you'll never be able to just leverage it out and say, I know it's taken care of. And that's how I feel we have it. I know that 99.9% of the time it's taken care of, and the 0.01% that it isn't, you're a human, I'm a human, I forget to do things and they forget to do things, and we fix it out on the fly. It's not a big deal.
Perfect. So one of the things we talked about the other day in preparation for this call was about why you're willing to work your tail off now. I want to dig back into that, because you didn't go take 2 years off to go travel. You didn't, you really figured out what you wanted to do and dug in. What's your thinking behind that? What's your motivation there?
Yeah, I mean, I think first I just like working, and I'm really passionate about the industry, and I'm really blessed and fortunate to be a part of something that I truly love at the end of the day. And that I tell everyone, I've never worked a day in my life. I truly love what I do, and I wouldn't do it for free. I'm not that crazy, but I just love what I do. I'm very fortunate to love what I do. But also I just have a different outlook on life. I think from the jump start. I mean, I got a job at a local sports shop when I was 15 years old, and I worked there forever. I worked there for like 6 years till I was like a senior in high school or a freshman in college. I loved having the freedom of working. I love working for something, and I also have seen and met so many people in my life that put the work in early, and now I get to see how they get to live their lives, and that's really attractive to me. There was a gentleman that I worked for 2 semesters in college, my freshman year, named Andrew Duncan, and he had this really cool story and a really cool outlook. He had worked for a cable company. He had left working for the cable company, became a real estate agent, and I remember vividly we had a conversation. He said, my goal is to get this business to a point where I make $1 million a year for 10 years. He's like, when that happens, I'm gonna save all that money for 10 years. So I'm gonna have $10 million or more in the bank. I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna hire somebody else to run this business. I'm gonna collect mailbox money. I'm gonna go do whatever I want to do. And I remember just sitting there saying like, that's pretty cool. And he was probably 35, maybe 35, maybe a little bit younger at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you're gonna be in your 40s he has a daughter. He might have 2 kids now, but he had a daughter at the time who would probably be in middle school or high school at the time. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like imagine that life where, and I remember him saying, like, he said, I want to be in a position where if I want to travel the world and be gone for 6 months, nobody calls me, but the money continues to be deposited into my bank account. Right. And I just thought about that, and I said, that's really cool. And so, that kind of resonated with me, and I get that. Like I want to be able to do things with my family later on in life at whatever level I deem to be the level I want to do it at. If I want to go and travel the world and stay at every expensive hotel ever, then I want to be able to do that. I want the freedom to be able to do that. And I'm willing to put in the work now and start early and build something big, because I think that life is sort of like that investment strategy of compounding effect, right? If you start early, I get to a point quicker than you do if you start later. And so I look at careers like that too. I think that I'm very fortunate to have known what I wanted to do early on, and to have been passionate, and to be able to link up with really awesome people like Sue, who took me under their wing and gave me the ability to do the things that I'm doing. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today without Sue, and I'm forever grateful to her for that. But I just see the future. I understand that if I work hard today and I put the work in today and I master the craft now, how much better life will be 5, 10, 15 years from now. And being 27 now, 10 years from now, I'm not even 40 yet. And I just am so excited about what that looks like. Like, what does 45 look like? I don't know. And it's just really, that's why I do it. It's just exciting to me that way.
I think that's so well said. And it is just so much easier to put in the work and put in the hours when you're young and you don't have a family yet and you have the energy and, that's the time when you have the passion and the drive so that you can take your foot off the pedal later if you so choose. So yeah, absolutely. So
I probably lie to everybody. I won't, but I tell everyone I'm going to travel, but there's no way. I love working.
You love to work. You'll be at it. So can you point to some of the things that Sue did well that have kept you where you are? Because clearly, I'm sure you've been recruited away from time to time, and you could go and start your own business. You could go branch off and do your own. There's lots of things you could do. What is it? What has Sue offered you that has caused you to stay where you are?
It's just all about opportunity for me. It's 100% about opportunity to me, and we had this conversation. I don't know what we were doing, but we were in the car together and we had this conversation years ago. And I said, listen, to me, it's all about opportunity. If I see the opportunity to grow to the levels I want to grow to within your world, then I'm very happy. Gary Keller talked about it on stage 2 years ago. He said, I don't need to do this anymore. I could go home and live a very happy life, and my family could live a very happy life. My children could live a very happy life. Their children could, he's amassed so much success that it's irrelevant to him at this point. And to Sue, similarly, Sue doesn't have to do this anymore. She could retire and go sit on a beach somewhere and live a very happy life. And yet, she has built a world big enough and continues to allow me to push our world to be big enough to fit what I want to do within it. And that's what it comes down to for me. I mean, there are not many people in this world who would do that. I think there's a lot of people who say they would do that, but I think that when put, I don't think there's all that many people that actually do that, and that's plain and simple. That's all Sue had to ever do to retain me in her business, was to continue to allow me to get opportunity and to see the opportunity to grow year after year, decade after decade, and as long as that's true, I'm here. I'm good.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I talk to clients who will say, oh, they seem really fantastic, but they're going to leave me in 2 years. They have other plans. Like, that's okay. Find new opportunities for them in 2 years. What can they do for your business in the next 2 years? Yeah. I mean, I think it's the best problem to have. And sometimes it is scary. Sometimes it is intimidating when you have someone who's going to push you and going to challenge you and, take you to places where you didn't think you were going to go. But wow, what an amazing gift to have that kind of person in your world. So buckle in and go for the ride.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but also, Sue has really treated me like a partner. I don't have a sense, she's my boss. I work for her. She pays me at the end of the day, but we have a partnership mentality. I think both of us do. And I really appreciate that. I think that also means a lot to me. And I like a partnership. I think when you look at, I studied entrepreneurship in school, in college, and what I realized was that very few individual sole proprietor businesses succeed, right? There's always a partnership, and sometimes there's a silent partner and a more out there partner, but there's always a partnership. There's always a yin and a yang that make businesses successful, and I appreciate that about Sue. I mean, the real estate industry is such a lonely world as a solo agent or as a sole proprietor. And yeah, you can have friends and you can have people you can call and whatever, but it's really cool. Some of my favorite times with Sue are like a Friday evening when everybody else is left and we just get 30 minutes to talk about the business or talk about the week and talk about the week ahead and what are we doing and where are we going and what are we pushing. Those are some of my favorite, times in the business, and it's that partnership mentality that also I love and keeps me coming back.
So let's talk about your goals. What's next for you?
A lot. So I told everyone when I started that my goal was to do $1 billion in real estate within 1 calendar year by the time I was 30. So I have 3 years to get there. My coach is really pushing me hard to get there. So that's a big goal for me. We're going to get there. And that's going to be incredible. And the way that we do that is through acquiring other businesses and bringing in more opportunities to the business. So that's my favorite thing to do, and that's where my passion is shifting, and that's also where I think we can make the business the most amount of money and create the most amount of opportunity for everybody within our business. One of the things that we're realizing is that some of our agents are having kids that are graduating high school, and now they're becoming empty nesters, and they're saying, well, all right, I don't want to live in Summit or Short Hills, New Jersey. I want to live down the shore, or I want to live here, or I want to live there. And so these are really talented people I don't want leaving our world. And so now we're starting to look for opportunities to create business, offshoots over there where they can still be a part of our world, and we can still be in business together. So that's one direction I see it going. I think that there's some ancillary businesses that Sue and I are interested in getting into that we would partner on and be a part of together. So that's really cool and exciting to me. And I think that we've spent a lot of time creating a great hub and a great core, and now the key is that we need to leverage that and start being able to do that in more places, and that's going to help us to grow the business geometrically, which is really exciting.
Fantastic. Wow. Big things ahead. We'll have to check in with you in 5 years and see where you are.
I'll be here.
I love it. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. Don't forget to rate this podcast and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/pro REA staffing, to check out even more content. All right. See you on the next podcast. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Offer Accepted, the podcast for fostering careers in real estate and growing a successful real estate team. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. You can also check us out on YouTube. Search Pro REA Staffing, and you'll find this and a ton more content all around hiring and managing your growing real estate team and launching your career in real estate. We'll see you in the next episode.